here with some stuff. This review is late as hell, and that's all I'm gonna give it. I was late on the review for AEW's pay-per-view Full Gear. That of course had the Young Bucks be the new tag team champions after quitting. That they would have the same stipulation that Cody had when he faced Jericho at the same pay-per-view. That they will never challenge for the tag team titles again, except that's their only option. You couldn't make a mid-card tag team title, even how relevant that you think your tag division really is. And it was kind of an inevitable at the point, so I'll go more in depth later on. So we had Serena Deeb retain her NWA Women's Championship. We had Orange Cassidy have a basic comedic low card like AEW Dark. Like this is something you wouldn't mind seeing on an AEW Dark, or at least like an opening part of Dynamite. I think Dynamite's different, and they'll make their opening match excited too. No, that's an opening start of the show, and they already conversated over a majority of the show that these guys have wrestled against each other before back in the Indies. By the way, Allison Kay was here. Why is she not signed? More on how trash the women's division is later. So, AEW World Title Elimination Final with Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. And the selling factor comes into the tournament statistics and like Kenny Omega sucking his own smark. That he has the most smarkiest introduction ever when it comes to a professional wrestler. Usually, it comes into how many people you won, if you have a winning streak, titles, or who did you beat, or somebody you beat in the fastest time. This dude's bringing up that he's a top 10 ranked Wrestling Observer Wrestler of the Year. Why does that matter, especially to a casual viewer? How's that supposed to support a guy? Like, if you're a multi-time world champion around the world, probably more people would have been like, oh my god, this guy's legit. No! This guy's bringing up the sucking his own thing on a tournament that most of his matches had to be replacements. So, Hangman Adam Page versus Kenny Omega. And it was pretty much Hangman sobered up for a majority of the match, but every time he tries to get a chain on Kenny, he'll counter it off with a V-trigger. There is a sunset flip from outside over near the stairway, because of course they can't have a ramp still. Buckshot Lariat was countered with a V-trigger. Another V-trigger, one Winged Angel, then a buckshot, I think a Dude Buster for a 3, and a near fall. It ends with a one Winged Angel. The win goes to Kenny Omega. He will face off against... Everybody knew it was Jon Moxley that was coming out of the I Quit match. I'm sorry, I'm not that enticed. All I can say was the opening match was fine. This was way better than what they had back at All Out back at September. And we won't have a pay-per-view come February, and that's not a bad thing, man. I mean, they're an opening company. They need to try to get over long-running storylines, intertwined with a lot of, build-up, and that's something like we give WWE rack for lack of build-up on pay-per-views. That's not a bad thing to scoff at, and I can wait a while for a pay-per-view, but every time they let it drag, and sometimes you forget, and then they have a work rate match, and then they interlude with, like, inconsistent story arcs. Like, I came from, like, praising the heelish tendencies of MJF into he's a comedic joke now. Why are you seeing with Chris Jericho? That's just my opinion. That's my opinion on the matter, and the only idiot that I probably know that's going to be the double advocate of this, or at least be like, it's not that bad. And do you guys want to see my reasons why Mustafa Ali and Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins should main event WrestleMania other than Roman Reigns and The Rock? Obviously, they're better workers, because that's more important. So, yeah, not a bad opening match at all. And I wish there was more emotional standpoint, because this has been built up since they broke up and lost the tag titles to FTR back at All Out. No one really cared about this match with John Silver and Orange Cassidy, in my opinion. I don't even know why this come from, even though Orange Cassidy had a whole lot more important guys to feud with. other than John Silver been just punt kicking him and costing him his TNT title match on back at that lumberjack match back a couple weeks when he faced off against Cody Rhodes. Now, thanks WWE. Didn't know giving away pay-per-view names would be that important. Yeah, swinging tornado DDT. I think we had Hurricane Rana, some clotheslines. I think a snap German suplex. Of course, the casual shtick with Orange Cassidy, and I wish this was foiled a lot better. Other than this guy was feuding with Cody and freaking Chris Jericho for most of the year. Michinoku driver from Cassidy for a near fall. It ends with, I think, I forgot what it's called. It was a, oh god, this was such a lower card match. This had no reason to be on pay-per-view in my opinion. And sure, for the standpoint that yes, Orange Cassidy is one of the bigger draws that you have on the mid-card scene, John Silver shouldn't be a pay-per-view opponent. Why couldn't he be like Brody Lee? Brian Cage? Oh, wait, you get to see more of him later. Of course, we had the TNT title match with Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes. Yes, we can call him Cody Rhodes now. Because Vince owns you. This match was pretty fine. Canadian Destroyer from the top. A lot of counters off the Cody Cutter. A coffin, like, crazy coffin drop. It wasn't as crazy as the time he attempted one on the apron because these guys did wrestle each other on Dynamite before. And I don't know technically how they illustrated over Darby Allin getting a title shot for the TNT title, and he had to wait all the way until the pay-per-view. But either way, it's great. It ends with Darby Allin being the new TNT champion, so I'm proud of him. He's one of my favorite wrestlers out of most of the guys you see in the mid-card. And Cody's like getting some of the guys that are actually not from WWE over, so that's a positive. It ends with Brian Cage and Taz distracting both the champion and the challenger after Cody literally kneeled and was like, I present to you, you are now the ace, and all that weeb stuff. It ends with Brian Cage and I forgot Ricky Starks. I'm sorry, he just looks like some guy that French kisses you in the cheek when you're not looking. I'm sorry, folks. They came assaulting him and tried to attempt to break Darby Allin's arm until Will Hobbs came with a steel chair, saving both of them. So I don't know if they're still going to do that six-man tag that they canceled on because I think Lance Archer suffered COVID, so he wouldn't even be much on the pay-per-view except make a promo later on in the show. That I really don't care about a Lance Archer pay-per-view other than he'll just say everybody dies with somehow one of the best, like one of the greatest promo talkers ever out of Jake the Snake Roberts. Just feels like he's gurgling up words and he hasn't said anything important since literally his debut, his first appearance on Dynamite when he was saying that he was going to take over Cody and get Lance Archer. Poof! Beats him at Double or Nothing. He's barely done anything important since except losing to Jon Moxley for the world title. So next up we had Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's Penny. It's everybody made fun, ragged on the WWE Tag Team titles. At least those look like belts a grown adult could wear. I mean, sure, they probably not your favorite belt, but I'd rather wear them than the AEW Women's title. Jesus Christ, the Divas Championship looks more competent. Even though those look like it's for a child, like a child can wear that. Like the AEW women's title, that's something women in like the 70s wore. Japanese belts look better than that. And people are probably going to write up that, oh my god, you mean the IWGP Super Heavyweight Champion? Kill yourself. I'm sorry. So Hikaru Shida face off against Nyla Rose. This was teased over from the Nyla Rose using her moves. She earned an opportunity out of nowhere, out of the irrelevance of the women's division, over Hikaru Shida having cool matches with Thunder Rosa. Thanks for dropping the ball on Thunder Rosa, AEW. Amazing. And the biggest drop of news coverage that everybody can get out of AEW is that Cody can finally call himself Cody Rhodes. Amazing. There was a grab over the kendo stick after an attempt over Hikaru Shida was about to be hit. I think there was a reverse Hurricane Rana. a clothesline. There was two Tomashis on Nyla Rose. There was a kick out of the Beast Bomb. The two Tomashis got it for the win. Vicky Guerrero officially broken up after slapping Nyla Rose and hitting her with a Beast Bomb. So what a irrelevant managerial position. Like, all she did was literally mock Hikaru Shida's language, then coming around just absolutely out of nowhere, just getting back her title shot just to fail. In the standpoint of it, I think she's currently the longest running women's champion, Hikaru Shida. I think she's beaten Riho's reign. We don't even know where the hell she's at now. And I don't know if they're gonna make it Serena Deeb versus her probably in a couple weeks on Dynamite or whatever the hell they don't have for Penelope Ford, or let Anna Jay push like part of the Dark Order to get her way. Like, make storylines. At least make something for what you got with a whole lot of people on the roster. That's just my opinion on the matter. Other than that, Hikaru Shida has retained in interesting fashion. Next up, we had FTR against the Young Bucks. Oh my god, what a dream match. What a dream match, guys! Dream match! From 2016. So, FTR, or the Revolt, even though they're supposed to be called the Revolt, against the Young Bucks, this was built up for the last, well, technically years if you're counting social media beep, that they have been manipulating and officially breaking up the Elite, causing the Young Bucks to behave a certain way and more aggressively super kicking everybody and paying them off. Then, uh, again later than like 2 weeks prior, shattering the ankle of Nick Jackson, and that would be playing a factor. Yeah, it played a factor into her doing Nick still doing topes in springboard 450s, then coming back and no selling with a surprise super kick on Dax Harwood over for the finish. There was callbacks. There was a freaking heart attack. Doomsday device. The Meltzer driver nearly attempted a Cash Wheeler went for a springboard 450 splash that went for an absolute nothing. Double super kick, comeback from Matt Jackson, and barely any selling on that ankle that was nearly attempted to be shattered again. The only cost was that if they lost, they wouldn't challenge again. Thanks to the only tag team belts on the show, they know they're not going to do that. So I guess it brings some semblance of pressure. I felt like there was some decent spots, but every time like you have a decent sequence, they want to squeeze it out to add more stuff, and you don't do that. That's not selling a benefactor over like the weeks of emotion that these guys cost them their friendship with most of Hangman and Kenny, causing a lot of untrustworthiness and change of behavior. That you think this match would be a lot more emotional than the call-off moves, no sell of consistent ankle injury that they've been selling the factor that Nick Jackson wouldn't be able to compete in all this BS. I'm sorry to rant over this, but the consistencies over what AEW consists on fun and actual freaking logic to actually get you more invested into the Young Bucks, because obviously you guys are not always shading off a whole lot of fan base when you're consistently grabbing up only like 700,000 viewers. 800,000 viewers. It's not going to be that big enough to grab a reaction. And the most mainstream you guys have is dumb t-shirts that were from Japan. So, yeah. Young Bucks win off a surprise comeback over the major hot tag. Then, after targets over the injuries, Nick Jackson hits a super kick on Dax Harwood for the finish. So, if you wanted more on that, I'm sorry. Next up, we had, of course, our Elite deletion. It's just final deletion in AEW. Because if they do another high risk spot, we know Matt Hardy's going to die. So this is to kind of minimize that over this feud that's supposed to make Sammy Guevara seem more intimidating, even though it just felt like a joke feud. And you would think like Chris Jericho, Matt Hardy, it was like, okay, that's a given. We should be watching that. I think they had that as a match on Dynamite, but that got ended in the DQ or some stuff like that. And then it had like Sammy Guevara feuding with Matt Hardy, all because of ran over him with a golf cart. And that's how they even showed up. There was a freaking monster truck. We had Hurricane Helms and Gangrel back. That was a decent callback to when Gangrel was literally like with the Hardy Boys when they were starting to get more popular back in the Attitude Era. So that was a decent callback. Then Shane Helms just immediately changed personalities as soon as he even got tossed out by the water, then super kicked. Rolled out in some mud. These guys fought with freaking fireworks. Like, at least there was anything attention grabbing in this match. It still didn't, like, it made me feel like it would have been a match on Being the Elite if they made it like a 300 episode special than an actual match on pay per view. I think there's not that big as when Matt was feuding with his brother. So it's not that enticing in my opinion. It ended up with a twist of fate, I think, on a chair. He started hitting him with the ring post. Sammy Guevara looked bloody as hell. That was practically the match. I don't know how you could feel enticed from a guy who said he thinks Sasha Banks is so attractive that he would rape her, rap her. Sorry, trying to censor it, folks. Other than that, I just didn't feel that enticed because it's Sammy Guevara. He looks like somebody that kisses pillows with lipstick on. He doesn't look like somebody Matt Hardy can be like, I don't think I can beat this guy. Because of course he can't say that aloud because he has a concussion. We had Santana and Ortiz coming in. Uh, we had the best friends, I think, came in and hopped in and helped out until they. No, it was a private party. It was a private party coming in, helping out. Sammy Guevara got smushed over with a chair. I think he gave him a concerto. Other than that, Matt Hardy wins. I'm not going to continue, dude. This review is going to be as long as it is. Next up, I think I had one of my actual enjoyable matches. Chris Jericho versus MJF. If MJF wins, he joins the Inner Circle. And we had like a springboard move on the guardrail. Decent grabs over the camera to get a distraction over Jericho. Jericho mocking the injured arm of MJF when he was out for a couple months. A lion salt for a near fall. Frankensteiner from the top rope. I don't know how he even got that done on Jericho. The match was just spot after spot until knife edge chop. There was, of course, assault to the earth that he countered. Uh, I think it Judas. I think there was, of course, a ring, but then he faked over getting hit with the baseball bat, and then a roll-up pin for the finish. So that was technically it. The match was hard-hitting as they can get, with cheap, underhanded tactics off two heels, getting to gel a bit more perfectly and better understanding. It ends off the most basic finish and make sure that none of these guys be like, oh shit, these guys beat the piss out of each other. He really wanted to join. So we at least got that MJF really wanted to join the Inner Circle and do whatever it costs, even if it means cheating. And Jericho actually respected that. They ended up hugging, raising each hand, so Wardlow and MJF are now part of the Inner Circle. Whatever happens, we have until Revolution, so that's all I can say there. Next up, we have, of course, our main event. I think my favorite match of the show. But by God, they could have just had this on a special on Dynamite. They could have had this in the 30th anniversary of Jericho or something, man. Except we had him against Luther and his midget friend Serpentico, and nobody cares about that match. So it was Jon Moxley against Eddie Kingston in the I Quit match, and like the most personal gap, I missed my Dynamite review. I know, and no one's chagrin, no one cares, in my opinion. Jon Moxley had this personal beef with Eddie Kingston, going over like a sign of respect, him not quitting, that this is for his mother, and the personal jabs on each other was pretty okay. Because Eddie Kingston can make stuff feel that important. He's that personal and he's that good at trying to make an emotional grasp and make a match grasp and make it actually feel important. So yeah, I was pretty enticed. There was wraps of the barbed wire used as a glove. Shades, these guys were bleeding profusely. Bulldog rear naked chokes, hits over to the guardrail, paradigm shift. We still haven't said much. Scraping him with the baseball bat, then choking him with the barbed wire baseball bat. Hits over with the 2x4. Exploder suplex on freaking thumbtacks. These guys were beating the piss out of each other, and Eddie Kingston had a freaking purpose. We thought a chokehold Eddie Kingston could have had him saying I quit, until Moxley wrapped his arm around with the barbed wire and choked him out until he had to just spew out I quit. So the match ends there. John Moxley still AEW champion. We end with Kenny Omega lurking at his opponent that he actually faced at Full Gear last year, so we have something built up for Wednesday on Dynamite. So big important matchup come after Dynamite. Probably they can push the belt over to Kenny. Moxley had been having a lot. He's been holding the belt since February, dude. Uh, I think he's okay. I think Moxley's been an okay champion, and at least he's been feeling legitimate. He looks better than he did back like when he was Dean Ambrose. He was skinny as hell. He looked like Dope Fiend. He looks like somebody that you know smokes crack on a sock or some crap like that. He looks better. He looks like he can be in hardcore matches. Tough. He makes everything sell better, and he had such a gelling time. Eddie Kingston that was actually dressed up as a wrestler that recently died, and they even bring up his I think Tony Schiavone did a brilliant job mixing that in with his iconic promo. That was brilliant. The only sad thing is like nobody had a belief that Eddie Kingston would actually win the belt unless this was on a minor show. I don't think they would mix this up for pay per view, so it was decent enough to keep the belt on Moxley. Other than that, I thought this was better than All Out. I don't think it was better than. I think this was a bit better. Not as better as Revolution from this year. And Double or Nothing was just fine, other than the Matt Seidel meme that I don't think anybody would stop laughing at until ever. So, yeah, I thought this was an okay pay per view. I would give this a 6 out of 10. The matches were fine, but some of them dragged. I thought they were overselling the factor of no selling. I don't know how much we can take more of the build over Jericho and MJF, especially now that they're part of the faction. So more corny shit is going to be ensued to actually make what supposedly the two top heels, the two top talkers. Obviously, both guys that can be over to the mainstream public because they can actually conduct themselves some heat, and they both have natural charisma. But I know they're trying to make them as a comedic gesture just to get some laughs over some smirks because they'll make some dumb reference, and that's not going to get like casuals to watch your show. And why you're only competing with a developmental program. I'm sorry, I can't get that out of my mind. Other than that, this was a passable pay per view. Uh, yeah, I mean the only thing I have missed out is a Dynamite review that I don't think I'll do till uh, November 11th. That is shockingly my birthday, so that's when this review is coming out. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you liked it. Thanks for taking the time out of your day, and happy Veterans Day. That's it for me.
You like that? You like that?